When people think of boxing, they often think of two men in a ring throwing punches at each other for a predetermined number of rounds, one man coming out victorious and the other having to endure a defeat. However, there's a third man in the ring that plays a vital role in ensuring that the fight stays within the boundaries of safety and fairness. This man is known as the referee, and he has to be ready for anything. In this video, we are going to take a closer look at the role of the referee in boxing and how these men keep order in the ring. And if you stick around to the end, I'll tell you why I believe being a referee is the toughest job in all of combat sports. So stay tuned. Now, the key point of this job is to control chaos. It's their job to ensure that the fight doesn't descend into an all-out brawl, that the fighters don't cheat by using illegal moves or refuse to follow the rules. They have to do this while being constantly bombarded by flying fists and feet. If that sounds difficult, it's because it is. Referees are there to protect the fighters from themselves and from their opponents. If a fighter gets injured, the ref steps in to stop the bout. If a fighter's knocked down, the ref counts to see if they can get back up. If a fighter appears to be dazed or confused, the ref stops the fight and makes sure that the fighter's okay to continue. And if a fighter breaks the rules, the ref steps in and gives them a warning or a penalty, such as a point deduction. But probably the most important thing that a ref has to do is make split-second decisions. In any given moment during a fight, something could happen that threatens to derail the entire event. Maybe a fighter is knocked down and the ref has to decide whether or not to stop the fight. Or maybe a fighter is bleeding profusely from a cut, and the ref has to decide whether or not to end the match due to the amount of blood loss. Or perhaps a fighter breaks the rules and the ref must determine what the appropriate penalty should be. These are just a few examples of the many decisions that a ref has to make in a single fight, and these decisions can have major consequences. If a ref stops a fight that should have continued, they will be booed by the crowd and criticized by the media. On the other hand, if a ref allows a fight to continue when it should have been stopped, they will also be criticized. That's because most people don't understand the pressures that a referee faces. You see, a good referee is invisible. Their job is to let the fighters do their thing without interfering. A bad referee can ruin a fight by making the wrong calls, but even a great referee can still make mistakes. After all, they are only human. And when the stakes are so high, those mistakes can be costly. To become a referee, you need more than just a love of the sport. You need to have a deep understanding of the rules and regulations that govern it. You also need to be in top physical condition, because being a referee is a demanding job that requires a lot of stamina. And perhaps most importantly, you need to have the courage to make tough decisions under pressure. Now, the first thing that people think of when they hear the word referee is the iconic image of a white-clad official standing in the center of a boxing ring, waving a scorecard and keeping an eye on the action. But in reality, the role of a boxing referee is much more complex than that. For starters, a boxing referee has to be a stickler for the rules. They have to be able to spot any infraction, no matter how small, and deal with it appropriately. This means being familiar with all of the rules and regulations governing boxing and knowing how to enforce them fairly and consistently. It also means being decisive and not being afraid to make tough calls, especially when the fighters aren't paying attention. Referees also have to be incredibly observant. They need to be able to read the fighters like a book, anticipating their next move and being ready for anything. This is especially important in championship fights where every second counts and every decision can make a difference. In addition to their observational skills, referees also need to have excellent communication skills. They need to be able to communicate clearly and effectively with the fighters, giving them instructions and warnings when necessary, and getting them to break when needed. They also need to be able to communicate with the crowd, keeping them under control and preventing them from becoming a distraction. And finally, boxing referees need to be in peak physical condition. Being a boxing referee is not for the faint of heart. These guys are literally putting their bodies on the line every time they step into the ring. They need to be strong enough to break up fights if necessary, and quick enough to get out of the way of flying fists and feet. And they need to be able to stand up for hours on end without getting exhausted. So now you know what it takes to be a successful boxing referee. Let me ask you again, is it the toughest job in all of combat sports? If you think so, then leave a comment below and let me know why you agree. And if you want to learn more about boxing, be sure to check out our other videos. Thanks for watching.